They say you learn who people really are when the cake comes out. On my 78th birthday, there was no cake, just a light bulb buzzing over my head, the smell of damp concrete, and a locked basement door I couldn't open no matter how hard I rattled the handle. My name is Ned Holloway, though most folks just call me Grandpa Ned, and I've lived long enough to know that families don't always break with a bang. Sometimes they crack quietly, like a stair that gives way when you least expect it. I never thought the person who would lock me in a basement on my birthday would be my own daughter-in-law. But then again, I never thought I'd still be standing after what came next either. I used to be a carpenter. 45 years of measuring twice and cutting once does something to a man. You learn patience. You learn how to fix what's broken without making a show of it. And you learn that the strongest things are often held together by the smallest, least noticeable joints. That's how I lived my life. Quiet, useful, in the background. After my wife Margaret passed 6 years ago, I downsized, sold the old house with the wraparound porch, and moved in with my son, Tom, his wife Elaine, and their 2 kids. It was supposed to be temporary, just until I got back on my feet, as Tom put it. But grief has a way of slowing your steps. So I stayed. At first, Elaine smiled a lot, too much, the kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. She called me Dad in front of others, but when it was just us, she used my name, sharp, clean, like it tasted bitter. I tried not to notice. I cooked breakfast when she was tired, picked the kids up from school, fixed the leaky faucet, repaired the deck railing she'd been nagging Tom about for months. I thought I was helping. She thought I was in the way. The morning of my birthday started like any other. I woke early, old bones don't believe in sleeping in, and sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, watching the sun come up through the sliding glass door. I didn't expect presents, didn't expect a party. But I did expect something. A happy birthday, Dad, from Tom. A hug from the kids. Maybe even a store-bought cake with my name misspelled. Instead, Elaine breezed past me in heels, talking loudly on her phone. "Yeah, I'll handle it today," she said, glancing at me like I was a stain on the countertop. "No, he won't be a problem." That should have been my first clue. Around noon, she asked me if I could help her carry some boxes down to the basement. "Just old stuff," she said. "Holiday decorations, you know how Tom never helps." I smiled. Of course I'd help. That's what Grandpa Ned does. The basement smelled like cardboard and cold earth. The light flickered when Elaine flipped the switch. "Just set them over there," she said, pointing toward the back. I bent down, placed the box carefully, and turned around. The door slammed shut. At first, I laughed. "Very funny, Elaine," I called out. "You got me." No answer. I walked up the stairs and tried the handle. Locked. I knocked harder this time. "Elaine," I said, "this isn't funny." Still nothing. That's when the cold settled into my chest, not from the damp air, but from the realization that this wasn't a joke. She had locked me in. Time stretches differently when you're trapped. Minutes feel like hours, sounds get louder, your own breathing starts to sound like someone else. I sat on the bottom step, trying not to panic. The basement had no windows, just that single bulb and a pull string that hummed like a tired insect. I called Tom's name, yelled for the kids. No one came. At some point, my legs cramped. My hands shook, not from fear, but from humiliation. On my birthday. Locked in a basement, like an unwanted piece of furniture. I wondered how long she planned to keep me there. I wondered if Tom knew. And worst of all, I wondered if this was how my life was going to end, not with dignity, but with inconvenience. It was nearly evening when the door finally opened. Elaine stood at the top of the stairs, arms crossed. "Oh," she said flatly, "you're still down there." I stared at her, my throat tight. Elaine, I said quietly, why? She sighed like I was the problem. This arrangement isn't working anymore, Ned, she said. You're always around, always watching. The kids need space. We need space. So you lock me in a basement? I asked. She shrugged. I needed you out of the way today. I walked past her without another word. That night, Tom avoided my eyes. The kids didn't say goodnight. And I realized something important. If I stayed silent, nothing would change. That night, I didn't sleep. I thought about Margaret, about the house I built with my own hands, about every favor I'd ever done for people who forgot my name when it suited them. I wasn't angry. I was done. The next morning, I made a decision. Not a loud one. A careful one. The kind of decision a carpenter makes when a beam is rotten beyond repair. You don't argue with it. You replace it. Over the next few weeks, I did something Elaine never expected. I smiled. I helped more than ever. Fixed the garage door, organized the tools, took the kids to soccer practice. Elaine relaxed. She always did when she thought she'd won. What she didn't know was that I was making calls. Old friends. A lawyer I used to build a deck for. A real estate agent who remembered me from before. And most importantly, my sister Ruth, who had never liked Elaine and never pretended otherwise. Come stay with me, Ruth said. We'll sort this out. Oh, we will, I told her, just not yet. One Saturday morning, Elaine found a man in a suit sitting at the kitchen table with me. She froze. What's this? She demanded. The man stood. Elaine Holloway, I'm here regarding the property. Her face drained of color. Turns out the house wasn't technically Tom and Elaine's. It was mine. I'd put it in Tom's name years ago for tax reasons, but I'd never transferred full ownership. Something my old lawyer had insisted on, just in case. Elaine hadn't known. The suit smiled politely. Mr. Holloway has decided to reclaim residence. Tom stared at me, stunned. You locked me in a basement, I said calmly. This is me unlocking a door. I didn't throw anyone out. That wasn't my style. Instead, I moved out on my terms. Sold the house, split the proceeds fairly with Tom, and bought a small place near Ruth, with a porch just big enough for a rocking chair and morning sun. Elaine lost the house she thought was hers. But more than that, she lost control. And Tom, he finally apologized. Not with words, with action. A year later, on my 79th birthday, I sat at my own table again. This time there was cake. Chocolate, too much frosting. The kids were there, Tom too. Elaine wasn't invited. As the candles flickered, Ruth squeezed my hand. Still standing, Grandpa Ned, she said. I smiled. Because revenge isn't always about anger. Sometimes it's about remembering who you are and refusing to stay locked in anyone else's basement ever again. And that, if you ask me, is the best gift a man can give himself.